Thank you for joining us on From the Halls of Justice. Good afternoon, Saturday, Sunday, wherever you're watching in the city. Welcome to From the Halls of Justice. Today in the studio, we have with us our wonderful guest, and it's Mr. Daniel Hales, and he's an attorney. He has a JD degree, he has an MBA, he has a CEP, and a CPhD. Like I said, I'm so impressed with him. I can't say all the names, but thank you for being here. I have my partner with me, Murvet Arnstein, a world traveler, my best friend and partner, and we're going to talk about prenups and postnups. So I'm excited about this. You know what? And before I start with all my questions, Mr. Hales, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? And, so our audience will know about you. How many years experience do you have? What makes you qualified to tell us about this, besides all those degrees?
Well, I've been an attorney for over 20 years.
Okay.
And I specialize in estate planning and family law. And that's all I've done for that entire period of time. So I sit down with a lot of clients, usually 3 to 4 clients every day, and listen to their problems and find out what they need to do to solve those problems, either before marriage or after marriage. So this is what we focus on as a law firm.
Okay. All right. Cool. Well, I'm going to start off with, for our prenups, once again, we're going to be talking about prenups and postnups. For California, is California a common law state?
Well, no. A lot of people think it is. And couples end up living together for years and years, and they wonder, is there some point, some magic date,
right,
where after they are automatically considered as husband and wife, and there are states like that in the United States, but not in California. California is a community property state, and there is no magic date that you become husband and wife without a valid marriage certificate.
So no matter if it's 7 years or 10 years or 15 years, 20 years?
That's correct.
Nothing. Okay.
That's correct. I mean, there are other rights that are relevant, and we'll be talking about those today.
Okay.
But there is no common law marriage in California.
Wow. See, women, listen to your mothers. They'll tell you. All right. So tell me, who would get a prenup? Who needs a prenup? Yeah.
Well, in the old days, I think only Donald Trump and the rich and famous got prenuptial agreements, or sometimes we call them premarital agreements. So I think prenup for short. But today it's lost the stigma, and many couples, young and old, that are getting married for the first time or the third time want to get organized. So anybody that's getting married and feels like they have some issues that they want to address and solve, such as organizing what property belongs to the husband or wife as their separate property and what property is going to be community. The earnings, are earnings after marriage going to be community or separate? And any couple, in fact, that wants to imbue certain values or goals as a couple before they're married, all of those things can be done on a prenuptial agreement or a postnuptial agreement. Okay.
Now, in the news today, everybody's talking about the McCourts. So we're going to ask you, we're going to pick your brain. What do you think went wrong with the McCourts in their prenuptial agreement?
Well, this has been big news in Los Angeles because the future of the LA Dodgers is at stake, and it affects the morale of the team and the attendance at the park, and it all gets down to a marital relationship and what happened as a result of their deciding to dissolve the marriage. And when a couple that has a prenup decides to get divorced, everything goes back to the prenup, and they look at that. And in the McCourt's case, unfortunately, there were some problems with the prenuptial agreement, things that weren't discussed, and pages that were confused, and allegations have been made that perhaps the lawyer had inserted pages that were not actually signed or agreed to by the other side. And so there's been some confusion, and there shouldn't have been, because a prenup is done to help people get organized, and it's done to eliminate confusion. But in their case, the stakes are high, and it's created, because it wasn't really done properly, apparently, it's created problems.
Now, when you go in for a prenup, I have all kind of questions running through my head, of course. Aren't you initialing every page? I mean, how could they get away with that stuff if you're initialing every page, and were some pages like skipped, are they trying to say, or what goes on with that?
If a prenup is done right, you don't have those problems. You're absolutely right. If each page is initialed by both sides and by both sides' attorneys, and if the signing procedure is videotaped, and that's an additional thing that we often do in our office, and then you shouldn't have those kinds of allegations that I didn't know what I signed, or this page was inserted. I think that's a great solution, though.
What would be a good timeline to have a prenup done? Because, if somebody calls and says, hey, I'm getting married on Saturday, and today is Thursday, and we were talking about it and thought it'd be a good idea to have a prenup. Is that good? Could we do that?
Well, that happens a lot. People do call up at the last minute, and somebody's got the jitters, or they're worried about some issue in the pending marriage, and the wedding's been planned, and the announcements have been sent out, and let's get a prenup. And the reality is you have to get one done and signed at least 7 days before the actual marriage. But my advice is to get it done as early as possible, so then the couple can focus on planning this magical day, and they can enjoy it, and they don't have to worry about lawyers and the prenuptial agreement while they're busy picking out flowers and wedding invitations. But the reality is that sometimes it gets pretty close in timing, but you need to start early, because there might be changes and back and forth, and you want to get it just perfect, and it might take longer than you think. So don't wait until the weekend before the 7 days. It's going to take time. I think you should plan it at least 4 months, a minimum 4 months before the wedding.
So, do you think it would be insulting for someone to ask you for a prenup? I mean,
honestly, I think many people would be insulted if their loved one that they're about to marry said, "Look, I want you to sign a prenuptial agreement."
Really?
I mean, there are people that would be offended by that, because they feel like they should be loved and trusted enough that why should they have to sign a document that talks about what's going to happen if they get divorced, and they're not even married yet. So some people have a problem with it, and those people shouldn't get one. Or they're not going to agree to one. But if you take the different view that a prenuptial agreement it can be a unifying experience. It can build faith and confidence in each other. It's a joint project. It creates full disclosure, and each person learns more about the other. It can actually be a very positive experience where people grow together, they get organized, and by the time they're married, boy, they're already a team. So it can be positive, and when a person is offended, in many cases it's because they don't really understand what it is. They think their love or their trust is being questioned, and in reality it might just be a matter of organizing finances, and so it's all in how you look at it, I guess.
Yeah, I think. Maybe what I think I shouldn't say, but but
you should.
I should. I don't know. Last time I got in trouble, but I know a lot of people say getting a prenup is like, getting a divorce before the marriage. one of those things that I think that it's a positive experience. So I work in a lot of, I work for a divorce attorney, okay? So come to my office and we can talk about it. No.
You've probably seen it all, haven't you?
Oh, a lot of it. And, but I like you said, it's an individual choice. So,
it can be an emotional experience for people, and in many cases, one fiance or one spouse has more wealth than the other, and the one that has less wealth may feel like they're being put at a disadvantage, or but really a good prenup or postnuptial agreement can really help the parties be more on an equal footing.
How many attorneys would it take to do a prenup? I was laughing about that at first, but go ahead.
Well, these days you've got to have at least 2 attorneys.
Okay.
Each person must have their own lawyer, because it's difficult for one lawyer, as much as they want to be objective and fair, to actually be completely fair to both the man and the woman, because some things are going to advantage one side over the other. So California law and case law really requires that the woman have her own lawyer and the man have his own lawyer. And sometimes they have more than one lawyer, but I mean, fewer lawyers is better, right?
Right.
Keep the cost down, but you got to have at least 2.
Okay. You know what? That's what I was thinking 3, but that's mediation, I guess.
That is if there's a divorce.
Yeah, that's mediation. I'm telling you, I'm in the office a lot. So, let's see. I find this very interesting. So with the prenup being done, and you have your 2 attorneys, because one is going to look out for your best benefit.
Interest.
Okay, interest. Thank you. And the other person's best interest with their attorney. After you do all that, and you're getting your prenup done, what is the difference? Why would someone go through that, and then what is the difference between the prenup and the postnup, and why would you get a postnup? If you didn't get a prenup, what would make you get a postnup?
Well, obviously a postnup is a prenup that's done after marriage. And there are a lot of people that come in, like you said, the weekend before they're to be married, they want to get a prenup, and we have to tell them as lawyers, well, you can't. You're either going to have to move your wedding date,
right,
or your other option is to get married and then come back after the honeymoon, and then we'll do a postnup. So a postnup is often done for people that just waited too long, and they didn't want to reprint all their invitations. You know, to cancel a wedding and reschedule, it's very expensive. So many people go ahead with the wedding and then they come back afterwards and do it. That's one scenario. Another situation is where maybe a couple has been married for years, and then something happens that causes them to want to have some agreement in writing that's going to structure their relationship in a better way, provide some structure for an asset that's just been acquired or inherited. Sometimes family businesses and things are passed down from the wife's side or the husband's side, and even though they've been married for years, now there's this new entity that they have to deal with, and there are questions about community property and separate property that can best be settled by a postmarital agreement. So it's really the same agreement, it's just done by someone who's already married.
But for an inheritance, if you inherit something, that's not community property, is it? No,
you're right. Inheritances are already considered separate property, and gifts are separate property too. So let's say if you've been married for several years and you inherit something, it begins as your separate property. But let's say you inherit a business, and the business is worth $1 million, and you inherit that while you're